Okay guys, so what I want to share with all of you is something that I've been studying for the last 5 years or so. It's been a bit of a crazy couple years of my life, and for the most part, the topic that I've been diving into is the quality of the mind, the power of the mind. Now, through this topic, I've dived into different theories within psychology, within neurology, dived into different religious thoughts, what's going on with Christianity, Buddhism, Hinduism. And with all of these, I've been able to draw a pretty decent picture of what's really going on. And what I mean by that is, what is the true nature of being human? What does it mean to be human? Because when I think about human, we're much more important than just raw materials. The reason we're valuable is in our bones and our skin. Is, that's not the reason that we're here on earth. It's our minds. It's what we're able to do. We're able to think. We're able to create. And this is also true for every living being, whether it's animals or plants. The true value of a tree isn't actually just lumber. That's the biggest reason we use them for, but what the tree is doing when it's alive, what it's using its mind for, that's the real value. So really what I want to dive into is this concept of the human mind, what its role is, how do we access it, and then I'm going to teach you guys a meditation that allows us to unlock abilities of the human mind. Normally when people think of meditation, it's just sitting there, clearing the mind, releasing anxiety, getting focus, sit there and just follow a mantra or follow your breath. Those types of meditations, which are definitely the predominant ones that most people think about, do have use, don't get me wrong. But all of those meditations evolved in a society that was already disconnected from nature. Think about Buddha's story, for example. Buddha came from a wealthy royal family. They weren't living close to nature, they weren't living close to the land. He was frustrated by the wealth-poor gap that was going on, the amount of suffering he saw around him, so he left for answers. Now what he came up with was a very effective tool in diving into the mind, which is definitely an aspect of what I'm going to talk about. But again, consider his position. He was going from analyzing suffering, a very disturbed and not balanced state, to try to bring it back to a neutral and balanced state. So that is predominantly what meditation, as most people know it, is about, is getting from this chaotic state to this neutral state. But there's other types of meditations out there as well that aren't just about trying to bring balance. They're actually about, once you have balance, what then do you do? How do you go beyond that? Now, growing up for my life, I've pondered this idea of spiritual gifts. I've heard about people being able to heal and be able to have visions and doing all these magical things, and I thought, well, why can't I do those? And that was like a big pondering in my mind, was why can some humans do that and why can't others? What are we missing? What understanding, what fundamental knowledge, if understood, would allow us to be able to develop these gifts just like all these other people? So, to lay out a clear expectation for what I'm going to deliver to you guys in these next couple videos, is I first want to talk about what exactly the mind is, why it's important. Then, what divisions does it have? What parts does it have? Finally, how do we access them? And that's what I'm going to teach you guys in meditation. So first, we need to build up this foundation. We need to build up this understanding of why all of this is so important. So the very first thing that I really want to discuss in this video is setting a foundation for why, first and foremost, I believe spirituality is an extremely important topic, especially right now. Globally, we're facing tons of issues. We're facing issues with climate change, we're facing issues politically, socially, across the board, right? Now, we're also advancing very rapidly with technology. Even just recently, I've been studying the effects of AI and what kind of role they're going to play in society. Now, we're quickly getting to the point where technology is going to surpass the intellectual ability of man. Now, what I mean by that is our processing, our systematic thinking strategies that we've invented. So, think about mathematics. Already computers can solve mathematical equations much more quickly than a human can. So technology Technology's already beat us there. Now, as AI keeps developing, what they're also doing is getting better and better at beating us in all these systematic ways. I mean, chess, they've already beat us at chess. Next thing you know, they're going to learn how to speak. Their ability to absorb language and adapt. And this evolution that we're coming to is talked about by different high-level scientists. It's called the singularity. Now, what that means is when this AI technology evolves past the intellect of what they determine is the intellect of man. Now, what they say is that once it's beyond us, it's outside of where we know. It's beyond our ability. And at that point, technology can rapidly improve itself, because what's going on is technology's been evolving exponentially. It's not just been at a steady rate. I mean, the difference of technology that we had in 1985 to now is almost the same kind of jump that we went through in the last 400 years before that. So what we're seeing is this speeding up of evolution. And so the question that different scientists keep asking is, what's humans' role? If there's a point that technology has surpassed us in what we've been deeming intelligent, then where does humans fit in at that point? And different people like Elon Musk, they're preparing to create this means that technology will interface with the human being. So he calls it the neural link, where you put a hole in your brain, and then now you're able to use technology to rewire brain. You're able to there's nanotechnology, where you can restructure the entire body by putting nanobytes inside your blood. They're already talking about all these things, and most optimistic people say 2045 is this point where technology is so advanced that we either have to merge with it or become extinct. And that this point of singularity, as they say, is a bridge point for the human race. It's this point where the human race has to decide, are we going to become extinct and let technology just evolve past us, or are we going to merge with it and reach this state of immortality? At least that's what the hopeful scientists are talking about. Now, again, this is based on the assumption that technology has been improving human life. The things that they talk about that it's going to improve is, one, you can eat and you won't get sick. You can eat whatever you want, you won't get sick. They said that they want to create an ability that you can, basically, you don't have to wear condoms, you can have sex, and these nanobytes will prevent you from being able to have a baby. So it's funny. And then another one, they want to avoid dying because they can cure all these diseases. They want to heal eyesight, they want to heal the body. All those things, some of them sound great, some of them sound just purely for pleasurable reasons, and I guess for many people that's great too. But again, it's still missing the fundamental point in my mind. The biggest thing that we're missing as technology keeps evolving is that human consciousness needs to evolve as well. Because the one thing that makes humans different than technology is that we're alive, is that we're living, is that we have this consciousness. Now, a machine can't reproduce. It's not alive. But that's the question that they're getting to, is that if a machine can use nanobytes to reassemble itself and recreate itself, is it living? So this is where I want to talk about, is what, as technology gets greater and greater and these conversations are happening, the biggest thing it's telling me is that most of these scientists who are working on these things, who think humans can be beat, who think humans can easily be surpassed, that we can be replaced by a machine, tells me that they don't understand what the human being is. They don't understand what makes us powerful. Now again, is it our ability to reason? Is it our ability to use mathematics and science and all these things? Those are all technologies. This whole world is being controlled by invisible forces. And those invisible forces, specifically the force of life, the difference between a living tree and a dead log, what is that? What is that essence that makes it alive and makes it dead? When something is alive or dead, what's the difference? And in my quest of trying to understand this very answer, I was led to a book called The Tao Te Ching. The Tao Te Ching is an ancient Chinese text that they're not 100% clear when it started, but the best guesses say it was 400 years before Buddhism even entered into China. So we're talking like 600 BC, earlier. And this Tao Te Ching is supposedly written by this philosopher, and his name was Lao Tzu. Now, Tzu in the Chinese language can mean child, it can mean other things, but in the ancient texts, it referred to philosophers. And so Lao meant old. So the name of the author was just the old philosopher. Now, what that also tells him is that it was probably some verbal tradition that finally got written down. And once it got written down, it didn't really change much. But it was this evolving philosophical tradition from these ancient people. So in the Tao Te Ching, it's translated as Book of the Way. Now, Tao, everybody, I don't know if you've heard of it, but Tao is very common. You have Taoism, you have people talking about Tao. Everyone talks about Tao. But in the name, it's the Tao Te Ching. Ching is this, it means classics, ancient text. So it's the ancient text about Tao and De. But yet nobody talks about De. It just seems like it gets forgotten. And if you read the English translations of the Tao Te Ching, a lot of them they'll just translate it out. They'll talk about Tao throughout the entire thing, but then they don't even talk about De. Some of them might, but then it still has a minor role. But if you read the Chinese text, it comes up all the time. So because I was studying Chinese and still trying to study and still trying to learn it, I used some of my knowledge to go and dive into that. Now, the difference between Tao and De is very fascinating. Now, Tao, according to these ancient ideas, is everything. It's the matter, the fundamental matter that creates all of existence. Me, you, trees, cars, air, water, fire, it's all Tao. But it's being expressed in a unique way. So it's the same fundamental essence with a unique expression. Now, De is what gives it that unique expression. De is what moves through the Tao, creating all of these unique divisions, these unique entities. So what makes me, me, and you is because we're both Tao, but we're being shaped by De. So De is the life force energy. It's the power of evolution. It's the expression to the essence. So think about it, like, you can picture this, like the ocean. It's all water, okay? That's all Tao. It's all encompassing in Tao. But then waves, De is what makes the waves on the water. It gives this separation. It gives this unique expression to it. So these two forces form the foundation of our existence. Okay, so this is this ancient philosophy. But even now with our modern sciences, we've proved this concept. It's considered quantum physics. With quantum physics, they're able to look at each particle and see, before we were trying to find, the most smallest particle and smallest particle and smallest particle. We found the atom, and then we found even smaller bits, and then that's when it opened up into quantum physics, because they found that the smaller they got, the more strange things became. They stopped following all of our basic laws of physics. And that's the reason nobody likes to talk about it, because it breaks all of our rules. And what they found was that in these quantum particles is that they actually contain multiple expressions and possibilities all at the same moment. And only when we observe it, place our observation on them, does it actually start to express itself. Okay, so that's the particles. But then when you take these quantum particles and you look at all of them in relation to each other, so you look at tons of particles together as a whole system, that's what becomes an entirely new different theory of science. It's called quantum field. Now this field is very fascinating because all of these particles relate to each other. So if you consider the quantum field as everything, now the quantum field of all these quantum particles all combined together is the essence of reality. Now that's starting to sound a lot like Tao. Everything comes from the quantum field. Everything is based on these same fundamental building blocks. But observation or some unique force goes through the quantum field and causes certain particles to assemble together, causes them to relate together. And when they relate together, they construct atoms and other things and then build up from there. So what is this force? This consciousness? Because they've been able to observe it. Something that we have as living beings is this ability to observe and actually alter the expression of experiments. And so that's the puzzling thing with quantum physics, is that we as science, this whole idea is based on observation and analysis, but then what they're finding is that just simply by observing something, we're actually choosing the outcome, we're causing its expression. So there's something inside of us as humans that's causing this. Now that something, again, is it's this life force energy. It's what's the difference between something that's living and something that's not. When something is full of it's evolving, it's constantly changing, it's constantly adapting. The body's able to move, the body's able to grow, the body's able to be damaged and healed. It's living. But when the body dies, what happens? It's acted upon by other things. Other things start to break it down. It no longer has this force through it that's bringing life. So even with our understanding of quantum physics, it's just getting back to what the ancients already knew. We took 2,500 years to basically prove what we already knew. But the problem is they still don't understand that. And that's the part about science that we're still missing. Now, science, as we know it, is really good about studying dead things and creating dead things, but it's not, to this point, we haven't been able to create anything living. So our role as humans, we need to start comprehending that. That are we going to be replaced by robots simply because we're trying to act like robots? We forced a thinking mindset on the human being that doesn't unlock our greatest potential. And so this is where we want to dive into. What is the greatest potential of the human being? Are we bound by our existence, or is our consciousness able to change this existence? This is all just a quantum field, and our observation can cause its unique expressions. This is all just Tao, and the power of Da in us is able to shape it, is able to rearrange it, is able to cause anything to become anything. That's the power we're talking about here. So this is the basic understanding that we want to start on. We want to grasp the power of being able to develop the spiritual gifts, be able to alter reality beyond what we thought was possible, beyond our supposed laws of science. So in the next video, I want to talk to you guys about the thinking pattern, how this power of Da enters into us and what we become because of that. So the next video will be about our mind and what the mind is and how it's created by this relationship between Tao and Da. Okay guys, stay tuned and look forward to talking to you in the next video.